Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right. Welcome to the Right Now Writers Group. I'm here with all of my fellow writers, and you found yourself in our weekly writers meeting. Welcome to the community, where we meet every Wednesday at this time to talk about the thing that we all try to have in common, writing. So make sure to stick around today. We'll try to get some writing conversation in. We'll get some writing sprints in. I know we all need to make some progress, and I would love to hear from you. What's on your mind, writers? Drop a comment, join the conversation. And by the way, welcome, Megan, ML. So great to see you guys. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kaufman, daily writing streamer, fantasy author, and dragon enthusiast. And today, I'm trying to make sure my character's motivation for the next back half of the novel, Scarecrow, Pixie, Bear, Skunk, are true for the next 100 pages. So that's what I'm working on, and we'll see what we see. I'll let the others intro themselves. I'll kick it over to you, Soul.
So everyone knows me as Chat Soul. I'm working on either one of my fan fictions or working on my story for the upcoming Freaky Friday competition. I technically have the first draft done and already got some feedback, so I really need to start working on what they said I was missing.
Ooh, well, that is so exciting. So I'm not surprised that you had the story done in like a day. We like
It
it now.
took me
Like
3 hours.
But granted, I guess like 1,000 to 2,000 words is nothing for you.
Yeah, not really.
Like I did that in my sleep. So I'm just like expecting you, like you just woke up and you're like, it was done. You're like, so it was sleep writing.
I wouldn't be surprised if I've done that before. But no, I was completely conscious when I wrote it. It took a little bit to actually think of what I was going to do. And then once I had like the concept down, it's like, oh yeah, no, this is like nothing.
Well, I would definitely absolutely want to hear more about that. But first, I'll pass it over to you, Crazy.
That's me. Hello, I am Crazy, just like he said. Isn't that crazy? And today I will be continuing writing the Raziel Chronicles, kind of blending all three of the books in that trilogy, blending them together as one, so it can be a much bigger story. And I'll be adding a few more details that were missing before.
Yay, so exciting. I know when we have a lot of shorter stories, and especially you, Crazy, because you've done a lot of shorts. I think that in the short story category or the novella category, and you're going to make it like this huge collection. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're coming out with like a new edition in a sense.
Yeah, and the only difficult part that it might be is for the future books that I'm hoping to do it all for is what books to put together instead of have all trilogy of one book, like instead of like all of it from the Angels books trilogy being one. I want to be like maybe put the first two in there and then maybe add the third one with another kind of book series. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm sure I'll think of it along the way.
Yeah, like it'll come to you. You just have to get into your characters' heads a little bit. But that's super exciting. I think that's a great strategy. And thank you so much, Crazy. Glad to have you back with us. And Kara, I'll pass it over to you to intro. And then what are you working on today?
Okay, I am Kara Hartley. I write poetry and nonfiction under my real name. I write dark fantasy and sweet romance as C.L. Hart, and I write steamy romance as Will DeVille. Today I'm going to be working on a holiday romantic comedy for the First Coast Romance Writers upcoming winter anthology.
Awesome. Well, definitely very, very cool, Kara. Love to have you with us. Glad you're able to join us for another meet this week. And it sounds like we're all working on something a little different today, which I absolutely love. I would love to hear in the chat, What are you working on today? Are you joining the community and working on Freaky Friday? Are you working on one of your big novels? Are you working for an anthology or something else altogether? Drop a comment. We would love to hear. And by the way, Lynn, Penumbra, welcome, my friends. Great to see you in here. See a couple friends over from Twitch, Zoto and Texter, X-Texter. Welcome. Great to see you guys. Definitely love having everyone here in the chat. You're like, Booley, I want to join. Yes, Freaky Friday is definitely really cool for our I guess I should have this. Should probably have all this prepared and ready. I'll drop the Freaky Friday stuff in the comments for anybody who wants to know more about the competition. But yeah, what is everyone working on? And Kaufman is definitely multitasking right now. Oh, Kara, I think the question was for you. I think Lynn asked, broke up with your second pen name. Can you repeat it? Because she wants to look you up.
Oh, sure. It's Lil DeVille, DEVILLE, like Cruella, except I don't make Dalmatian coats.
Absolutely. That's a great pen name, by the way. Okay, perfect. Let me just drop this. Freaky Friday. All right, my friends. So I just dropped the Freaky Friday details down in the chat, so any of our Twitch friends can go check out all the Freaky Friday details. Hope everybody submits. It's going to be a cool competition. Let's see, and I think we have some cool things everyone's working on. Let's see. Megan, you're working on fanfic, brainstorming an idea for the Freaky Friday competition and such. Very cool. I know we have a lot of fan fiction writers in the community. I know Chat Soul, like your fan fiction's like your vibe, your energy over here. Are you working on any cool fan fiction stories right now?
I'm still working on my therapy work. Still finishing up the one story, but I put that on pause so I can do the Freaky Friday thing. Aside from that, I'm working on an Omegaverse fanfiction, so never worked on that before, so it's kind
What's
of
Omegaverse? Is that like a
somebody else
show?
might have a better way of explaining it than I can do. Basically, you've got alphas, you've got omegas, and then you've got betas. It kind of works on that kind of system where betas are like regular people. Then you've got alphas who are basically just yeah, I don't really have a good way of explaining it.
And so Omegaverse, because it's fan fiction. So is it a TV show, a movie?
Okay, Omegaverse is actually not one specific thing.
So
Omegaverse
it's like
is
a
actually like its
combination.
own big genre.
So it's like a genre. It's like a mashup of different universes.
Not really. Omegaverse can be its own thing. Yeah, I'm with Ward. I'm kind of with Ward. You want to Google it, but you also don't want to Google it.
Well, it's like something we would have to research a little
accepted.
bit more.
Yeah, dude, just no.
I'm curious, Crazy or Kara, do you guys ever work on fan fiction yourself, or have you guys before?
No, I have not. I would never be able to do that. No.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to go into the whole long story, but back in the early 2000s, I published a rather disastrous book under a pen name I will never reveal with a pod publisher, and the experience was so horrible that I gave up on writing for about 5 years, and I got started back into it by writing fan fiction, which nobody but me will ever see.
Oh man, well at least it sounds like you had a great time working on it at least.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really like about fan fiction is I think it's a really great avenue, and it's a great way for writers to practice writing. Now, of course, it's not all like a lot of people. Fan fiction is its own genre and its own category, I would say. But I think what it does is when there's a pre-existing universe, writers can focus on character development and plotting. Like it's basically alternative plot lines and not have to worry as much about world building, because
Mhm.
all of the world building has been done, right? It's all been set. And as we know from as writers, right, one of the harder things with storytelling can be world building, and especially a little contingent on the genre. If you're writing a story in like modern day, like the world is what it is, you just have to set the year and the place. But especially for like sci-fi or fantasy, world building is a little bit more intensive. So it's always a nice way to practice really just developing characters. When
It
I
is.
started writing, I had actually started on what was it? I started on role-playing forums when I was really, really young. I started on role-playing forums, was the first thing I really branched out into. Um, and it was interesting. I wanted to write with other people, and I literally just like, you would go into these forums and you would create characters that you would write as characters, go under different posts. But it's really cool. I don't know if they're still popular or not. It's been a while for me, but I remember I was really into that for many, many years in a much earlier age of the internet. So
Yeah, role playing forums are like really common. There's a
are
bunch
they?
of discords for them.
Mhm. Yeah, and I could see how Discord would actually be very, very effective for role playing forums.
There's
I,
actually a lot of bots that help with role playing, both AI bots and then
mhm.
bots that
I mean,
just
yeah, I
like
could totally
help.
see how that would make it. I could see how AI bots could probably actually help make it easier, and then also help with consistency if there's not enough people yet. I think one of the harder things when you're creating let's say you're writing with somebody else. Um, and actually, I'm curious. This just question comes to mind. Have you guys ever co-written anything with anybody else before? I'd love to hear. If you're here in the chat, drop a comment. Have you co-written something with somebody else before? What about you guys?
Mm-mm. Me and
Yeah.
Crazy have talked about doing something, but nothing's come up yet with that. Sorry,
Okay.
dude.
Oh,
Um,
that's all right. I'm still waiting, but uh, I'm still needing to finish one that me and Penelope did uh last time, and it never got finished, so I need to
no.
finish it myself.
So it sounds like you started it.
Yeah, we got
Mhm.
like over halfway through, like probably almost needed few more chapters and then it'd be done, and I never got to it. Oopsie.
No. Well, hey, at least you were able to start. I think
Yeah.
for me, I think the closest. I'm trying to think of if there are things that I did previously, but I mean, I think Hermes the cat with you soul is probably the closest that I've gotten.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
I forgot about that for a moment.
I would say that was probably like the first real co-writing project we attempted. And I think it's interesting because when you're working with somebody else's schedule, and it's going back into forums, like when you write something, you're waiting for them to be able to write back. So if you're writing at the same consistency, it's easy. But when you guys have two different schedules, it's a little hard to be able to find that right balance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
True.
Unless you're like me and so on, we just live in front of the computer
pretty
24/7.
much. Yeah, that definitely makes it easier.
Mhm.
Sadly, I am the opposite. I live in front of video games the most.
Oh man. Let's see. What do we got? Penumbra was saying, I think people who can manage more than one pen name are amazing. I barely had the spoons to manage one pen name. Yeah, Kara, that's awesome that you're able to manage multiple ones. I like ask myself, I ask myself what I would do or if I would need to go under another pen name. Um, I don't think I'll need to. I think I just use my same brand name under JL Kaufman. I was like, because I don't think I ever plan on writing anything that's going to be too like diverse or outside. And I mean, I ask myself this, and I'd love your guys' feedback, right? So let's say that I write the books, write Scarecrow and the whole series, and that's fantasy, of course. But let's say that I write another book, nonfiction, about writing. Does it make sense for me to keep both of them under the same brand name? Completely
Maybe
different
not.
categories. It's
That's
fiction and nonfiction.
You may want to keep them separate. Try to figure
Mm-hmm.
out a way to keep them separate
Mm-hmm.
because if somebody's going to know you as the fantasy writer and they see that you have a nonfiction book, I feel like some people aren't going to take you as seriously.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Mainly because they're so different. One is completely fictional, its own world kind of thing, and the other is basically like informational almost.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of like, wait, are they a fiction writer or are they telling us how to write? And so it's going to be like, wait, is this even the same person? It's going to cast a lot of doubt. It's going to cast a lot of
Interesting.
doubt on the name. And if they do, and they're like, oh wait, no, this is the same person,
Hmm.
they might doubt. Wait a minute, if they're doing both of these, is the fantasy really as good as it could be, or could they
Hmm.
have done better had they not focused on the nonfiction?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I've asked myself that same question. I'd probably have to publish it under the Right Now brand. I think for that to be if I wrote like a writing book, or I guess a writing book on fantasy, that would probably be a closer crossover.
Yeah, no, that would be close enough,
Like,
but
I
if
wrote a
it's like
fantasy
too
series. Now, how
broad.
do you write fantasy? Yeah, it's interesting. I always ask myself that if I do end up doing a writing book in the future. But there's so many options out there. There's so many like writing book, how to write book options out there. I'm like, well, what would I do? I'm just asking myself, what would I do that would be new or consistent? But
You could talk about having an online writing community and how much different that is compared to just going to
you're right.
something like online,
You're
or
right.
I mean in person.
You're right. I imagine a book title. I mean, I guess by the time I wrote it, 1,000 days of streaming. How to write online. That's
I think
funny.
if I'm correct, I think I have heard of like, I don't know who exactly, but like at least several of the more popular authors, like maybe Stephen King or whatever, that have had went under different pen names, probably like before they got famous or something. They went under different pen names before they got to their actual ones we know now.
That's a really good point, especially for like really like well known authors where they've like you've seen them evolve over time.
Hmm.
Just words comment.
1,000 days of streams by that really tired. All right, Mo Maggie. That's the one we're going with. 1,000 days of streams by that really tired writer. You could use that as like a comedy. So I think that could work. Like it actually could work. But you had a good question here about pen names. You were asking for those with multiple pen names, how much social media do you manage for each pen name? How do you balance social media
Oh,
with different pen names?
I'm probably not a great example, but then again, I'm not having to hide anything. It's not like I have a
Hmm.
job where they're like, "Oh, you write that kind of stuff, you're fired," or something like that. So it's just kind of all grouped under the same thing. So it's I promote everything on the same page for
Hmm.
all the different pen names because it's not a secret that they're all the same person. They're just,
Hmm.
to kind of mostly to differentiate between the spicy and non-spicy stuff, I think, and also to differentiate between the fiction and nonfiction. Personally, I wouldn't feel like, okay, is this person like really committed to this genre if they also write in another genre? But I'm this weird squirrel brain who enjoys a variety of eclectic things. So for me, it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always interesting. I think I would ask myself the same thing, kind of with like different brands, is the way that I would look at it. As we know, even with one brand, it's about consistency. So then it's like, all right, with another brand, how do you do a consistent strategy? And I think it just comes down to like if you have the time to be able to uploading or posting or strategizing, doing all the things consistently for two different pen names. I think that's really where it comes down to.
Yeah, yeah, because I know I'm gonna have to. I'm probably gonna end up running into that problem personally because I've got three different pen names because I go across different genres. I've got my fantasy series, or well, my sci-fi series that people keep thinking is fantasy, and then I've got my romance, and then I have a children's series that I'm trying to write. So can't exactly have one name for. At the very least, I can't combine my sci-fi and romance with my children's series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a little bit of a strange crossover.
Yeah, that would.
Oh man. Well, it definitely looks like we have some good writing here in the chat. It looks like we have some good co-writing opportunities as well. I know Megan said that she's been co-writing with her bestie for Jalin Showdown Chronicles, and they've been doing it for many years. I think when you're writing with a friend and you guys are already familiar with each other's cadence and you're doing it where it's not like there's like an end goal, like it has to be done by the state. And I think there can be something really fun about that. And I've heard a lot of feedback from people who do that really effectively. And then Lynn said that they co-written with their partner and they're editing it down. Started at 115K and now down to 92K. Going to do some more querying. Well, that's probably makes it a little easier on the feedback loop, I imagine. Right? When you're working with someone else, you have a built-in feedback partner there. And sure, like you guys are of course both a little biased since you're the ones writing it, but having somebody to bounce and edit and revise probably makes it a little easier, I imagine. Awesome. Hey, what's up, Marcella? Welcome. Let's see. You said you've thought about this too. All of your story ideas so far have been for kids, but for some older kids and tweens and others for younger. I've thought about using a pen name for the younger books. Yeah, and I mean, I think it just comes down to what are our goals. This is what I always ask people. What is your goal as a writer? And our soul, similar to what you said, if you're advertising your pen name, your author brand to one, who is your readership? And if it's two different readerships, then
I got to admit, when it comes to kids' books, though, it's a lot different. It's one thing to have like Hollow, for example, going between pirates and Bound by Song. That it's weird. It can be weird because it's a romance versus a sci-fi book, and they're not really related. But if I put Hollow to Tales of Jade, and people see that, they're going to be like, "Wait a minute, is this really going to be a kids' book?" That's my personal thing with that is just it's not really like who your audience is or how you portray it. It's just more of what exactly is the contents of the book and what's going to happen if people feel like you mislead them. Even if that's, and especially if that's not your intention, it's going to make it feel so much worse because if people see Hollow, they're going to be like, oh wait, this is a kid's book. Wait, this is a kid's book. It's not going to be fit for kids, and and this one's literally being written for I think I was settling for like ages 7 to 8 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, Marcella kind of brings up like if she's writing for a slightly older audience and then they learn that she is writing for a much younger audience, will they be turned off if she's writing like a children's? Like that would be my question I posed to myself, right? Let's say I'm writing Scarecrow and then I'm like, okay, next year I'm going to do a children's book. Maybe it'll be like a fantasy children's book. Would people be turned off by the fact, would my adult audience be turned off by the fact that I then branched out and did something for a completely different readership? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Actually, I think it's not really that they'd be connected. I think people would just be worried about the children's book being written similar to the more adult books or the older kids book. I think that would be where the concern would be, is be like, wait, it's not that they're branching out. It's just if they're under the same name, you kind of expect them to be somewhat similar.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Megan, you bring up a couple of really good points. By the way, I hate to keep them. So I think it's interesting. I think you just have to understand what your strategy is, and I mean, it sounds like there's definitely some authors out there who do it successfully. So it's really interesting. But also, I'm not very familiar with the children's category or genre at all. I have very little familiarity with that genre of category. So as always, I think the good strategy is find authors who are doing the thing successfully, research and figure out why and how are they doing it successfully. My guess is for authors who are writing adult books and then young adult, they're probably either their publisher or they themselves are probably branding and packaging the way that the books are being presented very strategically, would be my guess. Yeah, I was like, if I were to go and write like a children's book, for let's say in the universe of the Last Scarecrow, I would create children's type characters with morals and values, and then try to sell it to the my original readers who are the parents in my readership to their kids, and I think that would be the way that I try to do it. Probably try to like do a cross target would be my guess, but take some strategizing. Not sure if it would work. Awesome. So I know we went a little all over the place with some of our topics, but we need to get some writing in today. So let's hop into our first writing sprint, and I'm going to cue it up right now.
Right now.
There we go. Perfect. So we're going to hop into it. We're going to get a little bit of writing. We're going to start with a nice, simple sprint, 30 minutes. I believe in us because I know we definitely need to try to see what we can accomplish. So make sure to hang out. We'll continue catching up and we'll chat more after the first sprint. And let's do it. So thank you for hopping into the stream, by the way. If you are enjoying the stream, make sure to follow and subscribe. We're here every week with the Right Now Writers Group, 64 meetings and counting. If you're wanting to join us, this is our virtual writers group for writers to just chat about writing and maybe get some writing in. So without further ado, I am all ready. Whether you are writing, editing, revising, brainstorming, or something all together, come join us because it's time to write now. All right, my friends, that is a writing sprint. How did that writing sprint treat you? Were you hopefully able to make any progress that time? Hopefully, just hopefully, we were able to push ourselves just a little bit. Did you get in some words, some ideas, or maybe just a little bit of motivation? I kind of felt like for me, I was a little all over the place in that sprint. I kind of started off strong, kind of doing some revision, and then I started kind of losing motivation halfway through. And then I remotivated myself and ended up coming out with a good couple sentences. So it's kind of back and forth in that one. That was an interesting sprint for me. We'd love to hear in the chat. How did that treat you? Hopefully progress. How about you guys? Any luck?
Yeah, almost got 1,000 words with that.
Nice. Nice.
Whoa.
I think that's like
I didn't get almost 1,000 words. I got little over 200. I had some tech demons to deal with, but
oh no.
I can't type that fast anyway.
Yeah, I think
Me
so is one
neither.
of the fastest writers
Yeah.
for sure.
Fastest writers in the West.
Oh man, I think I was like, I don't even know how much I got through. I think whenever I do word counts, it's always a little different for me because I'm kind of in revision mode. So it's kind of like a mix of revising slash writing. So it's kind of hard. It's different when you're like writing a rough draft, right?
Well, I at least for my end completed messing around with the prologue, fixing what needed to be fixed, and uh, adding the details and stuff. And I was about to start with chapter 1, and I was going to copy most of it from the original and put it over to this new one.
Mm-hmm.
And I got stupid and accidentally pressed the wrong button, and all the words were erased. So I have to make it up again.
Control back.
No, it was Control V. That's the paste button.
Can't you do the Control Z, the undo button? Oh no, that's like Control. Just the undo. Can't you do the undo button?
I don't know. I've never tried that.
I was like,
But I get the feeling it was one of those that once something happens, it'll automatically save. So I feel like it automatically saved at that point. So I'm like kind of screwed and
Even
have
if it
to.
automatically saves, as long as you don't like refresh the page, you can still do Control Z to go back.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Let me give that
mm-hmm.
a try. In other words, everything went fine. The prologue is better, and so I'll be working on chapter 1.
Nice. Is it interesting kind of going back and looking at your work after it's been a while?
Yeah, it is. Because I'm back at the point where, as you probably know me, that I felt more. I'm back to being in a world of darkness and stuff, and that I like the darkness. Yes, 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 and that's where I feel the most comfortable. So it's good to be back in the darkness again. So I like that. And the story so far, after rereading it and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, I can once again see where I kind of messed up on,
Mm-hmm,
didn't have enough details for certain parts of it, and that's where I'm
mm-hmm.
fixing it. But otherwise, it's good to be back to doing this again.
Is it always interesting for you guys when you go back and you read your work that you haven't looked at in a little while and kind of see how much you've grown?
It's honestly really nice seeing how much I've improved.
Mm-hmm. So do you see a lot of changes from like the beginning of your first book as compared to where you're at now?
Yeah, I feel like between the books I definitely improved. I also
Mhm,
have like looked at things I written like years ago
mhm,
and seen it feels like a different person in that case, but between books definitely there was some improvement. And then
mhm,
I even just gone through like the fan fictions I first started posting last summer, and even between then I'm seeing huge difference.
Yeah. I feel like I'm improving draft by draft. Like every draft, I keep getting better. Especially because I'm taking so much longer to work on developing this book. But I always felt that even when I looked at older projects as well, whenever I would go back and switch between different projects, it's always really interesting to see kind of like how your style, how you adjust your style over time with like word choice and structure and pacing and all the things.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, definitely going back like to your old works and then comparing to what you're doing now.
mhm,
Style, I think, is at least for myself. It was the first thing I noticed that had gradually cemented.
mhm. Yeah, I'm like, it's interesting as I'm kind of going through this draft, and like the further I get into this draft, the more I'm seeing like the style is becoming more solidified. The further I get into the throughout the rough draft, since I'm going through the revision of it, just really interesting. And then I feel like when I have to go back and review for the next draft, I feel like the storytelling is much more compact and tight, and not just figuring out how to cut down on 30,000 words. Nice, Megan. It looks like Megan, you got through 28 words. I would call that some progress. Marcella got in 176 words and closed off a chapter. Finishing off a chapter is always really nice, actually. It's nice to be able to kind of like tie off a story beat, whether that's writing or revising, getting through it. I like I keep whenever I'm opening the Scarecrow document, I kind of looking at it. I'm like, wow, I've really gone through this many chapters already. It's kind of crazy, especially when you're like in one story beat of your book and then it starts changing tonally or drastically. I felt that way whenever I get to like different story arcs in my book. I'm like, wow, I feel like I've been in this story arc for a while now, but just because I've been revising it. From a reading experience, like they're only reading through a story arc, and I mean, I don't know however long they're or how fast of a reader they are. Nice, Daphne. You did 615 words. That's awesome. Doing some awesome progress. You definitely beat me on the word count, so that's really good. Penumbra, you add clarifying sentences to paragraphs. Always a good thing. Not sure how many words. Always good to add a little bit of clarity. It kind of sounds like that's a little bit of what you're doing too, Crazy. Like adding
Yeah,
some like more descriptions and making things feel a little bit more vibrant, so to
and
speak.
yeah, and that's how I know that going back to each of these books and kind of redoing them in a way and be able to add more details and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That one is gonna be nice to do because, um, uh, or I don't know how I was gonna put it, but it's gonna feel like it's gonna be nice that to know what I know now from what I didn't really know then very much.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be like I'll feel better about how I write now because I'm sure when I started doing this, I wrote like crap and I sucked. But now I feel like I'm better than I was, so I can definitely rework these books the way I it should be.
You're a real writer, Crazy. Going through the process.
Good book, good book, good.
Oh man, I absolutely love it. And I mean, I think the thing that we can all respect here is that writing is a process, right? Whether you're in an early stage of something, whether you're in a later stage of something, I think there's that quote that every writer knows that writing is rewriting, and I think rewriting is progress. Now, of course, we could rewrite our stuff for the end of time, probably, but I think allowing ourselves to hit milestones with each progress and allowing ourselves to grow is such a good thing. And I mean, a lot of times you see with authors where their like later books in their series are stronger from a technical perspective than earlier works sometimes. So Penumbra, like early drafts are us telling ourselves the story. Later drafts are us preparing to tell others the story.
Exactly.
It's a great quote.
Yeah.
It's a really great quote. That's a great way of framing it. That's a great way of framing it. I like asked myself, was the rough draft of me telling myself the story? Maybe a little bit of both. It was just like developing and kind of figuring out what type of story that I wanted to tell others. Yeah. I think what's interesting is when you've created a world as complex as, or when I've created a world as complex, and I'm sure you guys can relate with your own worlds, how it's crazy to see how much the world has grown, how much the characters have grown from the very beginning of where they started out. And I think that's why it's always so crazy for me. Like, I really just started out the concept of a scarecrow and a crow flying in and stealing his hat. And now, like, I look back at this entire world and universe with these crazy characters and all this stuff going on, and it's so uh,
Crazy.
crazy. I was like, I feel like I need a better word, but yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah, there you go.
It's so crazy. Do you guys ever feel astonished with how much that your stories have developed over time?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
When I finished the first book, I literally took one look at this and I'm like, I actually wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think I agree that I'm thinking the more I do think, and that does hurt my head a lot. But I'm thinking that I may have been like writing these stories for myself, but now I'm gonna be able to actually focus on writing for other people and not just myself. Because I think that
Mm-hmm.
was my main problem of like, what do I want? What do I want to see from the story and stuff? What and it was always for me, and now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, there are other people. Come
Mm-hmm.
on, don't be selfish.
Well, I think what's interesting is I think almost every writer, and it could be wrong about this, but I think almost every writer starts writing for themselves. I think
Hmm.
every writer begins in the beginning of writing for the self. And then I think at some point throughout the journey, whether that's at the very beginning or throughout or later on, writers then figure out how to write for other people, for readers. And I think the balance becomes, how do I write for myself and for a reader, not or and. It's always a question of how can I achieve both? And there's ways to do it, right? We can like a lot of the things that readers like, but we're also biased as the storytellers. So I think trying to figure out that right balance in our writing, both stylistically, developmentally, and all the things, is the real, I think the real key and the real journey that we all go upon.
Yeah.
Awesome. On that note, let's get some more writing in. So let's hop back into another writing sprint. I feel pretty good. I am going to be consistent this time around. So let's see what we got. At about 17. Let's do 40. We'll push the timer up to slightly longer. So we'll go with a 40-minute sprint. Because I believe in us. I think we all need to make some progress here. And we are going to do it. Okay.
You can do it.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're going to push ourselves. We are going to stay focused this time, my friends. The first sprint was a good warm up. This time, let's get some words in, let's get some ideas in, and let's just get ourselves into the writing mindset. I'm going to try to get closer to finishing this chapter. Let's do it and let's see what we can accomplish. So I got 40 minutes on the clock. Whether you're writing, editing, revising, branding, or doing something in between, come join us because it's time to write now. All right, that was a writing sprint. How did that treat y'all? Were you guys able to hopefully make a little bit more progress that time? I I was feeling pretty good about that. I almost finished up the chapter. Um, I'm like getting close there. Yeah, so I'm glad I was able to make some progress on my end. Whether you are in the chat or you're just joining us, were you able to get any words or ideas? Hopefully, you got a little bit of motivation or consistency. How did it treat the rest of you guys?
Not quite as much writing this time, but mainly because I was plotting the next chapter.
Some more developing story development than anything else. Nice.
Okay, there we go. I got close to 500, but I also stopped to do a little development of some secondary characters that I thought would be a fun addition to the
Oh,
story.
that's always fun. That's always fun when we start adding some more side characters to add a little bit more flavor. Oh, absolutely love that. That's great. Um,
I got about 267 words in, and I was able to definitely. I remembered how chapter one went, thank goodness. But it gave me the chance to put in a lot more details than I did originally, so that made me feel pretty good.
nice. That's pretty nice. Um, so I guess it sounds like we're all making some progress, which is awesome. And I can tell, Megan, you said you did some writing and doing a little supernatural research, looking at a book on ghost tales of Milwaukee ghosts and legends. Oh, I see some research for some creepy stories out in the community. I love it. So absolutely love it. But that brings us to the 2 hour mark. So I just want to say, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for Writers Group. As always, come join us. We're here every single week. Same time, same place, 4 Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here. Come join us. Let us know if you want to come hop on stream with us or just chill in the comments and join the conversation. But that's all that I have for you today. Thank you all so much. I'll be back tomorrow for a writing sprint at time TBD. So I'll be back tomorrow, but thank you all for joining us. I'm Kaufman, and these guys are
Chat Soul.
Kara Hartley.
Crazy.
and we'll catch you on the next stream. Take care, friends. Stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on tomorrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write
Right now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now. Is that right?